ahead.
Hey guys, the reason why I'm making this video is to discuss the history and the importance of original paint. Roughly 2 years ago, in Vegas at Bonham's, I buy this motorcycle, which I call Greeny. It's a 1940 EL, which they all were. They were either E's or ELs. And it's original paint. Here's the right side of Greeny. And let me show you the left side. I'm going to flip that over. There's the left side. Right there. Now, everything on this bike, hold on, I'm going to flip it back. Everything on this bike, except for this air cleaner, is original paint. They're all original parts, all original paint. Now, because of this bike's unique history in the background of original paint, it brought what people at the time thought was an exorbitant amount of money. But it was advertised as, might have been repainted at one time, and 1940 EL, with no mention at all of its significance and history. They didn't do any research of the bike. And it's the auction house is really not to blame. It's the owner supposed to tell the auction house what it is. If this bike had been advertised what it really was, I would never been able to afford it. It would have been off the chart. How can I say that? Oh, gee, after everybody's beating me up on too much money and this and that, the very next month, a 2010 Dynaglide that just happened to have the Pope's signature been given by Harley to the Pope, who never rode it, never rode the bike, he just was in his name, sold for $225,000 or something like that, some stupid crazy price. And then shortly after that, Jerry Lee Lewis's, bike titled to him, as far as the motor case, is mostly reproduction panhead, sells for like $345,000, because Jerry Lee Lewis just happened to have owned the bike at one time that was given to him by Harley. I think he traced it to the paperwork. Most of the bike had been restored, and with reproduction stuff. So you didn't have a real bike anymore. How can I say that? This is what's important about original paint. We're going to discuss this right now. The Antique Motorcycle Club of America was founded in 1954 by 4 guys. Just 4 guys got together and said, man, this is a good idea. We need to promote our hobby. Let's form a club. So I sent out little letters to other guys they knew and got a few more members, and it grew very, very slow and by leaps and bounds. Well, in 1954, a 47 Knucklehead was not very old. It was a brand new bike. It certainly wasn't an antique. And as things aged, they had to let in newer and newer machines. Just like today, shovelheads are antiques. Well, I bought a shovelhead brand new. Well, it's my first motorcycle in 1981. Today, this year, it's an antique. Whoa, that means I'm an antique too. People have a problem with that because it means they're getting older. They don't like that. They don't like new. This is Greeny right now. I've partially disassembled the machine to go over the machine. Made lots of videos of what I've been doing and why. And we've gone and researched the history and found out what is correct and what is not correct as far as the actual bike when it was sold new. Well, let's get a grip here. Unless it's brand new in the crate, that means somebody bought it and rode it. Unless maybe it just happened to be a dealer display bike. 36 years in the business and over 10,000 machines, I've had one dealer display bike ever. And the chances of finding a knucklehead dealer display bike or brand new in the crate are pretty fucking slim. So if you're going to get an original paint bike, you're going to get something with history, as it was ridden, as it was put away. Maybe this or that got changed. Maybe the factory changed this or that, because even the most homogeneous production level of 46 and 47, the factory, as I've documented through my invoices, could not get parts because of post-war production shortages to complete a vast majority of the machines that actually sent to the dealer. And the dealer had to complete it out of their stuff or what they could get. You follow? So if you want it as a factory-produced bike with an invoice, maybe you got a bike sitting there that couldn't even run. We got invoices just like that. No primary chain, but you can look at it, buddy. No problem. Don't ride it, though. So what is really correct? Correct is something, A, the factory produced, be something that was available through any of the aftermarket manufacturers at the time, which may have been put on by Harley, because Harley certainly used their stuff, or put on it by the dealer or the owner or the dealer after the fact in that era. But with stipulation that none of it on the machine has been repainted, replated, blasted. The original patina from when those parts were sold new are still there. And especially the paint that is on the machine was put on at the factory before it left. And Harley Davidson, we have invoices just like this, was known to repaint some of their stuff. Change of mind, we're missing this part, whatever. Take it back, redo it. We got an invoice, if you go back to my invoices, from Harry Molinar's. The entire bike was taken in the back, or disassembled, every nut and bolt plated and painted and redone for the customer. Down to the bare frame, out the door for an extra $17.45. Disassembled the entire bike because he changed his mind. That was pre-war. Custom orders ruled, they wanted the money, and they did it in-house. Most of my stuff's pre-war. Guess what? Every bit of my pre-war stuff is custom paint. Harley wanted that extra dime. We're still in the Great Depression. So, why does original paint matter? Well, here's a Rembrandt. Here's a Picasso. What's a Picasso sell for? $1 million, $10 million, $50 million? And here's a copy. Unless you're a painting expert, you can't tell. I can't tell. Looks like a Picasso to me. Well, that one's $100. Do you want the real, or do you want a photocopy? That's why it matters. It's only original one time. Do you want a real painting from Picasso, or in this case, Harley Davidson, or do you want a copy? A restoration is an artist's rendition of what might have happened based upon the views that the person who did the restoration was, him or her, around at the time they restored it. Well, what does that mean exactly? Well, let me tell you. In the 60s, it was a really cool idea to take motorcycles, even new old stock motorcycles. I know of a Yale, new old stock Yale, brand new, never sold, ripped down, painted and plated. Everything was chromed. They took the nickel off, the original nickel, and chromed it because that's what the AMCA said was a good idea because it would last longer so they could have a pretty bike. Well, it ain't quite so pretty anymore because this was done in the 60s. They didn't have the concept that what's it going to look like in 10 years. Well, how about 40 or 50 years? They didn't understand that stuff ages, and they still didn't. That's what makes this bike so historically significant because in 1997, Greg Field came out with this book. The original one was called Harley Davidson Knucklehead, A Restorer's Guide. Then they went into a second edition, and it had this one with a panhead book in back of it, and then they did a third one which also had shovel heads. At least three editions I know of between 97 and 2000. And in this Harley Davidson Knucklehead book, beautiful restoration on the front. Restoration, you follow me? There's one original paint, just one. Now look how nice this restoration looks in the book, okay? And guess what's inside this book here? That is what is inside this motorcycle book here, 40 to 46. And that bike there looks as nice in the book as a restoration. Follow me? And there's page after page after page of greeny inside Greg Field's book. And it went in magazines, in calendars. It became stupid ass famous. It's the only famous original paint knucklehead known to exist because of this 3-edition book. There it is again. Okay? Became stupid ass famous. And this bike is the only original paint bike at this time in history that was there. It's the only one. This bike specifically, uniquely, and by and of itself, because of these series of books, caused the restoration craze of knuckleheads that had been around in the AMCA world, the same world that thought it was a good idea to take new old stock motorcycles from the teens and repaint them and chrome them was taking new old stock parts because they weren't new looking anymore. That was the best you could get as fast as they were coming out of the dealers that were closing down in the 70s, and putting them and restoring these parts on their restorations. They'd take original paint, new old stock, and repaint it for the restorations. Seen it happen many, many times. Oh my God, beautiful original paint bikes like this, because it's got a scratch and a wrinkle on the fender, and it ain't pretty no more, and restore it. Even in modern days, I'd take out my beautiful police bike, and oh my God, the people come up and go, when are you gonna make that thing pretty and restore it? Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I wanna rip apart this piece of history and restore it because you think it's pretty? But a lot of people don't understand. They want the accolade of the crowd. And they're still restoring stuff, original paint stuff today. I know of a beautiful 48 Panhead a buddy of mine restored for his customer. I know another buddy of mine, which I've known forever, restored a beautiful 47 for another customer just in the last couple of years. They're still doing it today because they want it pretty. Okay, and they're making reproduction parts so damn good once it's restored, you can't tell what's real and what's not. People want original stuff. So how do they know that they didn't, put a bunch of repop on their bike and give it to them? I know guys in the business, big guys that do a lot of work, that do exactly like that and yuck it up with their buddies. We'll just leave the names out of it, but you all know who I'm talking about if you've been around. And they're taking this bike from somebody who doesn't know, beautiful bike, all original, repop everything, send it to them, go, yeah, we did a nice restoration. Give me money. And they keep all the original stuff in their back pocket. I've seen that happen a lot. Oh my God. Those original parts are worth stupid money. They're worth more than the bike. So, original is because of the history. The history of the machine. Now, history today, this is what we got. We know, those of us who know, what original paint should look like, but it can get pretty rough and not quite look so good anymore. But when you have history and photos, people talking about the bike, history going way back, this bike here, Greeny, got traded into Wayne Pierce's Harley Davidson in DeKalb, Illinois, somewhere in the early 70s, 73-ish maybe. We don't know the exact year because Wayne is gone. And the daughter obviously was not paying attention. She sold all this stuff. All she cared about was the money. And the man who brought it in got it from his uncle. Where his uncle got it from and how long he had it, I don't know. However, this I do know. Traded it in. Original paint knuckleheads in the 70s were as common as chicken eggs at the grocery store. I mean, they were around. They were not that old. It was stupid common. I know a buddy of mine in the late 60s, he was buying them up in Oregon. Original paint, running knuckleheads up in Oregon for $50 off the farm, bringing them to LA and selling them for $500. He was making incredible money. He was doing about 10 a week. Zing back, 10 a week. $50, $500. That was incredible money back then. Having $500 was a mini fortune to most guys in the 60s. It was a lot of money. And that's all they were worth. That was it. This guy walks into Wayne Pierce's Harley Davidson and says, man, I want one of them new Sportsters. And Wayne's like, yeah, what you got? I'll sell you one. He says, well, I got this old bike from my uncle. He says, no problem. Give me some change in the bike and it's yours. He had to pay money to get a Sportster. Nobody wanted them. It wasn't a chopper. You follow? It wasn't a chopper. People didn't want this stuff. In the 80s, knuckleheads were laughed at. People wanted panheads or shovelheads so they could ride it. Remember, shovelheads were made till 84. Nobody wanted a knucklehead, and you certainly didn't want an original paint knucklehead because it had scratches on the thing. That thing was ugly. I know a 40 that is nicer than any of my original paints. It's, oh my God, like brand new, incredible, original paint bike. And somebody, it must have had a Nerf on the nose, repainted the front fender. Why would you do that? It had to have a Nerf like this on the nose. The whole bike is like brand new. Oh my God. So somebody at one point in time wanted pretty and repainted the front fender. Wow. What a destruction of history. I'd rather have a Nerf in the fender. That's, you know, it'd be nice if it didn't have a Nerf in the fender. I remember a 34 RL that I turned down from one of the old guys in the early 90s. He wanted $15,000 for it. It was a really nice bike, and Connie Schemler was his name. And he bought it new. Bought the thing new, and he had nerfed the front fender like this, with the whole side of it. But $15,000 was all the money at the time. I'm like, man, if that was only a VL and didn't have that nerf, I'd buy it. I was hoping, you know, more like 8 or 10. Somebody paid him the money, but he promised me. He says, "I'll give you first dibs." He called me first, and there's no way I could afford to pay stupid top dollar just for such a nice bike from the original owner. This is in the 90s when these guys were still around, and Connie was a great guy. He's gone now. You know, I mean, that was the thing in the 90s. It's got a Nerf, we'll repaint it. So much of it got destroyed. There's very little of it left. What was common in the 50s and 60s, you could go around to the farms and knock on a few doors and find a pre-16 buried over there for $50 or $20 or $5. And sometimes it ran for $5. Try and do that today. So things and times change. In the 60s, an Ace 4 was $200, and that better run for $200. Today, original paint knuckleheads, there have been so many of them restored, so many of them chopped, and so many of them have left the country that they've become this rare, desirable thing. They weren't so rare and desirable not that long ago. This bike here sold at the Vegas auction, the same one that just happened, in 2000, buddy of mine, the same buddy who turned me on to where the bike was, sold it. He owned it for a while, and it sold at auction, top dollar, for $30,000, an unheard of price in 2000. That was 16 years ago. It would bring a little more today, as it would. So, all these bikes here that I have traceable history to at least, the least traceable history I have is on my 46 over there to the 80s. That's the least traceable history I have. Every one of these, this is traceable to day of sale. This is traceable to day of sale. This is traceable to day of sale. This is traceable to the early 70s. This is traceable to day of sale. That's traceable to day of sale. And even my 38 over there is traceable to day of sale. When you have history going all the way back, and all the owners and where it was and who had it and what happened to it, to me, as an original paint collector, that adds enormous provenance. Maybe not necessarily monetary value, but adds enormous provenance to the motorcycle. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, today we've got a little magic meter that tells us how deep the paint is. Well, the people who fake this stuff know that information. They can do it really, really, really good today. Good enough to fake out an expert like myself. Pretty easy. In the high dollar car market, I understand that somebody has finally developed a meter, because these cars are worth tens of millions of dollars now, to go, boink, that's when that stuff come out of the gun. It's gonna be a little harder to fake it then, huh? You think? I don't have one yet. I will. But this is all my opinion. But I'm telling you history as well, because this, I was there. This is what happened. This bike came out in that book I showed you, and when this bike came out in 97, I was also offered this bike the same year, in 97. And my buddy called me up and says, "Man, I finally got that bike. You get the pictures?" I'm looking at the pictures of this bike with all the documentation and everything else. He says, "Wow, that's pretty cool, but it's kind of rough." He says, "Yeah, but it's got all the history and all this and all that." I says, "Well, right now it doesn't really matter, but it will, so don't get rid of none of that." And it is rough. Comparison with, say, Greeny or the 42, or let alone my 47 over there, it is rough. But it still is what it is. It's got all the history. Today, like, oh my God. But back then it didn't matter. He offers it to me for 30 in 97, and I turned him down. It was too much money. They're only worth 20. A restoration was worth 35 in 97. You understand? Not today, buddy. It's flipped. It's flipped because of that machine. This is what caused it. This is what made everybody realize it. That is what happened. That is historical fact. Nothing can ever take that from this machine. So, for those of you who haven't seen all the videos, what we have here, 1940 EL Greeny. This is optional Hollywood green. Okay? Optional Hollywood green. It is all original paint except for the 6-inch air cleaner, which has been sandblasted and painted black. My assumption, which I don't know, because I didn't get to talk to Wayne, is that somebody, or maybe Wayne, told him, hey, 40 is supposed to have a 6-inch. He grabs a 6-inch, rusty a little, blasts the stupid thing, and just, instead of painting over the rust, and paints it black. Well, black was an option. So was chrome, so was nickel, and CAD. You could get a CAD one. Oh, yeah. So what happened in 40, they had a brass manifold in the 6-inch optional air cleaner, or an air scoop. They had a sand cast, which this one has, timing cover. Right? Well, they had problems with this, and they had problems with the brass manifold. And in mid-40, they came out with the 7-inch air cleaner and that timing cover. It's a mid-year change. And right in Greg Field's book, it shows a bike from Harley's own literature, a 40, with that timing cover, and there's a brand new 40 in the Harley Davidson Museum, brand new off the line with a 7-inch air cleaner, guys. Whoops. Mid-year change, because they were having problems. So, other than that, it's all Harley stuff. The Speedo has a Dash 46 number. It's a War era Speedo with a black ring. So, this is what I personally think, what I see on the bike. And I've discussed this before. It has sidecar scratches here. So it has sidecar on it at one time. Probably got traded into the dealer. The car went with the new bike. And they fixed what was broken. Sidecars are rough. Put a Speedo on and put a Harley Davidson under warranty rear leg. There's a different casting here in the back of the headlight where the little knobs that stick up back here aren't there, and that's only on the warranty replacement leg. So it's original paint, Harley Davidson warranty replacement leg. To me, that's part of the history of the bike. It stays. So I've got an NOS seat on it. It's the best place for it. I still have the seat and the bags. Everything came with it. We'll eventually get this bike back together. So again, I have history on this thing to a time when Harley Davidson knuckleheads were basically worthless. I have history on this bike, this 40 here, to the day of sale. I don't have the invoice, I do have the original title. And pictures that are easily datable to the 40s, which is all that stuff right in the showcase behind her. That's what all that stuff is right there. It's all, everything in that showcase, everything there relates to this bike. That little scratch there is right on the machine. Those scratches are history. You understand the historical significance of original paint? When you take a photo and go, woo, I see a change in the motorcycle from this date and time, and there it is on the bike, that's historical provenance. That is so important. The 42, it's an F, low compression. What does that mean? Why would they have a low compression? Well, it turns out from my invoices that the low compression bikes, which are your E's, your F's, your U, and your UH's, were commercial sidecar only. If you weren't a commercial entity, you didn't get one, you walk in and says, I want a big overhead valve job. Who are you? Well, I'm Joe's Garage down the street. And can I have a sidecar with that? Well, automatically, when Harley got that order, it became an F. You follow? This is traceable to day of sale. A cop got it. I'll take it on the back end for my personal wheel, and voila, I'll take this custom paint like this. I want it flight red with a chrome package. Here we go. Chrome package, how come the handlebars ain't chrome? Well, we had an invoice like that. Chrome no longer available due to wartime restrictions on the handlebars. I made a video about that. This is the chrome package for this moment in time in 42 with black handlebars. That's how it came. This is our 41 FL, which takes a totally different left case than the 42, which takes a totally different left case than the post-war bikes. We documented all that on the videos. This is an FL, first year FL. I have evidence to original day of sale from statement of the original owner. I haven't done a thing to the bike besides ride it for 150,000 miles. from a mid-90s enthusiast with a picture of the original owner. So, in my opinion, that is a very good documentation of this machine today at sale. So we have our 47 over here. All blue. I got this one from the second owner. And we went round and round about this bike for about 6 months, where I finally got it out of him. And after we did the deal and we're loading it up, the son pulls me aside and he goes, "Hey man, when we got that thing, it was coated with grease." And he says, "What do you mean? You had a little bit of grease here and there?" He says, No. We were taking handfuls of it out of the spokes. The entire bike was coated with this massive amount of grease everywhere. And that is why this bike is as nice as what it is. So, and I was quizzing a guy. He's telling me the story, and we put this up on the YouTube. He put these handlebars on. And he says, "I still got the original bars with all the wiring and everything up in the back." Well, when they went looking, he couldn't find them, so he gave me a new old stock set of bars minus the controls. I'm like, huh. Like, "Oh, these are 47, those will work." I'm like, huh. Well, today it's like, oh my God, no old stock bars. Well, back in the day, in the early 80s and the 70s, that was nothing. This stuff was everywhere. So, Harley Davidson, as I said, was running massive part shortages, which we've documented on all the videos with all the invoices we have post-war. And a lot of these bikes left the factory not with a cycle ray, but with a Dietz headlight. They left the factory not with these Eaton gas caps, but with Stant gas caps. They were missing spotlight bars. They were missing spotlights. They were missing mufflers. That's why so many 46s and 7s, like this one, doesn't have a stock muffler. Because Harley Davidson was running material shortages. They were making that stuff, a lot of it in-house. Other people were running shortages. You know, cycle ray, every manufacturer was running shortages. They couldn't produce enough because all the orders coming in, because you couldn't buy nothing for the war for so long. And people were going, gimme, I'll take it. And orders were running through the roof. So, in my opinion, because the entire spotlight bar assembly and spotlight and headlight assembly is much newer looking than the rest of the bike. And the spotlights themselves have never been mounted. There's no evidence that they were actually mounted and screwed on anywhere. There's just loose wiring. And when he did all this, took the Dietz headlight off and chucked it, and put on new old stock stuff out of the box, just like those new old stock handlebars he handed to me. It's extremely nice 47 knucklehead. The bags and the seat are, oh my God. This bike here, Mr. Bill, I got it from the third owner, who was aware of the bike since it was new. We have him on video saying how he got it, how he knew about it. He knew about it since day one. I went to the Harley dealer after I got it, confirmed the whole story. Yeah, my daddy sold it new. So we can trace this bike since brand new. Original paint machine. Now, 46 over here, the guy I got it from got it at auction, a state auction. The guy had died. It came from his brother. The brother says, "Yeah, man, my brother got it brand new." Well, that's the story. But he got it somewhere around 85 to 90. They weren't very valuable at that time. So I sold a 47 with original bill of sale, with every part that was on the bike on the original bill of sale, with 4,700 miles on it. Extremely nice. Somewhere in between Old Blue and Mr. Bill there, niceness. A very nice machine. And I sold that in 1990 for the then unheard price of $18,000. And I bought it probably 6 or 8 months before that for $15 from Mort Wood, who's an AMCA board member who's gone now. And I paid him $15. Everybody thought I got fucked because everybody else was buying them for $5 to $10 grand. I paid $15. So then we got our 38 over here. Now when I got this machine, I knew Dennis Hines had found it somewhere in the late 80s or early 90s with a pile of stuff. And I'd heard about this bike for years. Went to a guy I know by the name of George, went to me. And because I put this on Facebook, I knew Dennis D'Angelo had worked on a lot of George's stuff. And Dennis said, "Yeah, man, I worked on that bike." So George got it right about 2000 from Dennis. And another guy by the name of Ruth Redpath says, "Man, I was there when Dennis got it." and the guy had got it back because the guy couldn't pay for it. So we can trace this bike to when it was new. We have history now to when it was new. You follow? So give a swing around this here. And we're going over it. It was stored under a oilcloth, which flashed off the chrome. So I am in the process of re-putting the original chrome package back on the machine. And I want to pull it down to the bare frame and do a mechanical on it so it's right, so I don't break it. I'm notorious for breaking stuff. And this here is the tanks up here. There's Greeny's bags. Here's the tanks for the 38. Here's Greeny's tanks here. That's original paint 46 fork that I got from a buddy of mine on a trade for an original paint 48 fork. So that's that. Now if that, what I just said, is not computing, you're not understanding, I got no explanation for you. It's that simple. You either get it or you don't at this point. But all this stuff is original paint. Why do I have so many original paints? Well, that's what I collect. Because that's what I sought out. Because that's what I stepped up and bought. And every one of these, I assure you, when I bought it, the guy I bought it from thought he got top dollar. Okay? And I spent what it took to buy it. Simple as that. So, that's all I can tell you about these. I will see you all on the next video. If anybody has any ideas of what you want me to talk about these beautiful machines, we'll gladly make you another video. Ideas are welcome. See you all later.